Arab millionaire finds a stranger in his bed, and she claims to be his wife. In the heart of the desert, where golden sands kiss the sky, rises a palace of unimaginable splendor. Towering marble columns, cascading fountains, and chandeliers dripping with crystal, every inch of this mansion whispers power, luxury, and the kind of wealth most can only dream of. And at the center of it all, a man, no, a legend. A billionaire wrapped in silk and secrecy. To the world, he's a tycoon, untouchable, enigmatic, a king without a crown. But behind these gilded doors, whispers run wild. Some say he's ruthless in business. Others claim he's had lovers across continents. And yet, no one really knows him. Not entirely. But tonight that illusion shatters. Because in his bed, his sacred, untouched, private sanctuary, lies a woman he does not know. A stranger who dares to look him in the eye and say four words that change everything. I am your wife. It was supposed to be just another night. A night of quiet solitude, of indulgence wrapped in silk and the scent of oud lingering in the air. But as he steps into his bedroom, the one place untouched by the outside world, something is wrong. The air is too still, the shadows unfamiliar. And then he sees her, a woman, asleep, in his bed. His bed. For a moment he doesn't move, doesn't breathe, because this isn't just a mistake. This isn't some drunken miscalculation or a one-night conquest forgotten in the haze of champagne and power. She doesn't look like a stranger sneaking where she doesn't belong. She looks at home. And then, as if sensing the fire in his gaze, she stirs. Her eyes flutter open, deep, dark, unreadable. And then, without fear, without hesitation, she speaks. Finally, you're home. His pulse spikes, his jaw tightens. But before he can demand an answer, before he can summon the storm brewing in his chest, she says it. I am your wife. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. And then, the hell you are. She says she's his wife, but he knows damn well he's never married. Or has he? The words claw at his mind, unraveling memories he's certain never existed. A name, a face, a ceremony. Nothing. There's no ring on his finger, no vows he remembers speaking. And yet, there's something in her eyes, a quiet confidence, a challenge, as if daring him to deny what she claims to be true. This isn't a mistake. This isn't a joke. This is something deeper, something darker, and in his world where power is currency and secrets are weapons, that makes her dangerous. So he does what any man in his position would do. He investigates. Files are pulled, contacts are called, whispers in the dark are followed. Lawyers, family, old acquaintances, everyone has an opinion, but no one has an answer. A secret marriage? His most trusted advisor scoffs, shaking his head. Impossible. You would have remembered. Unless, his cousin murmurs, leaning forward with a smirk, you were never meant to remember. That's when the doubt creeps in. Not because he believes her, but because in his world, where deals are signed in blood and loyalty shifts like desert sands, anything is possible. A forgotten contract, a drunken mistake, a betrayal wrapped in silk and deception. He knows better than to trust blindly, but he also knows better than to ignore a threat in his own home. Flickers of the past tease the edges of his mind. A night in Dubai, a meeting with a man whose name tastes of old money and tradition, a woman watching him from across the room, her gaze sharp, assessing. A deal. But what kind of deal? The pieces don't fit. But the more he searches, the more he finds shadows where there should be answers. A missing document here, a signature that looks too much like his own, a witness who swears he was there. But was he? Or was this carefully crafted, planned, executed by someone who knew exactly how to manipulate a man who trusts no one? And then the whispers begin. The scandal spreads like wildfire. The media catches wind of the mystery woman in his bed, spinning wild stories of secret weddings, forbidden affairs, hidden fortunes. His board members murmur behind closed doors. Investors question his stability. Family elders, Men who built legacies on the weight of tradition demand answers. And in a world where honor is everything, losing control of the narrative isn't an option. Fix this, his uncle warns, voice sharp as steel, or she won't be the only problem you have. And yet, it isn't just about reputation anymore. It's about her. There's something about the way she carries herself, poised, unshaken. Not a woman desperate to hold on to a lie, but one who truly believes in her place at his side. She doesn't beg for his acceptance. She doesn't flinch at his anger. She simply stands there, daring him to look at her, to see her. "You don't have to believe me," she says one night, her voice soft, steady, "but you will." And that's what terrifies him the most. Because deep down, beneath the logic, the fury, the calculated distance he keeps from the world, a part of him already does. Enough. No more whispers. No more games. No more riddles wrapped in silk and stolen glances. Tonight he demands the truth. He finds her where she always is, waiting, unbothered, as if she belongs here. As if she's always belonged. But this time, she won't get away with vague answers and cryptic smiles. No more teasing him with half-truths and eyes that hold too many secrets. "Who are you?" His voice is sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. "No more lies, no more riddles. Tell me, right now, how the hell you became my wife." She doesn't flinch. She doesn't shrink beneath the weight of his fury. Instead, she steps forward, closing the space between them until he can see the fire burning in her gaze. "You really don't remember, do you?" Silence. Thick. Unforgiving. "Remember what?" His voice drops, quieter now, more dangerous. And then she says it. "Our wedding." The room tilts. The words shouldn't mean anything. They shouldn't. But something about the way she says them, the certainty in her voice, makes the air shift, makes his pulse hammer in his chest. "Lies," he growls, stepping back, shaking his head. "I would never." "You didn't have a choice." The ground beneath him might as well have cracked open, because suddenly the shadows of his past aren't just flickers of memory. They are chains tightening around his throat. "A deal was made," she continues, voice steady. "Too steady. Your father, mine. A contract sealed before we even had a say in it." He laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Because this is absurd. This is impossible. This is dash. You were drugged the night of the ceremony, just enough to make you compliant, just enough to make it legal." His blood turns to ice, and suddenly it's all there. The flashes of a night he thought lost to time, a dimly lit room, a voice whispering his name, a signature on a paper he doesn't remember signing, the weight of a father's expectations pressing down on him like a vice. "No!" He breathes, but the denial feels hollow now. "Yes." She exhales, and for the first time, her voice isn't strong. It's tired, worn. "We were both pawns in a game we never agreed to play." Rage, betrayal, something else he refuses to name. He was tricked, controlled, played. But so was she. He looks at her then, really looks at her. The woman who walked into his life like a storm. The woman who challenged him, pushed him, refused to cower beneath his fury. And now he sees it. The weight she's carried alone. The chains around her own wrists. Invisible, yet unbreakable. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice is raw now, stripped of anger, laced with something dangerously close to regret. "Because you would have walked away," she whispers, eyes shining. "And I couldn't let you." Silence, heavy, charged. He should be furious. He should hate her for keeping this from him. But all he can think is, what the hell does he do now? The truth is out. And now, the real battle begins. It spreads like wildfire. Boardrooms whisper, journalists sharpen their knives, and the family elders summon him with the weight of generations behind their voices. A secret marriage? A contract sealed in shadows? In his world, honor is currency, and this is a scandal that could burn everything to the ground. "Fix this," his uncle commands, eyes dark with warning. "Annul it. Bury it. Do whatever it takes to protect your name." The legal teams swarm. Papers are drawn. Exits are mapped. All he has to do is sign, walk away, erase her like she never existed. So why the hell can't he? Because something about her lingers. The way she stood her ground, the fire in her voice, the weight of the truth she carried alone, waiting for him to be ready to hear it. And now that he can't unhear it. For the first time he sees her, not as an enemy, not as an intruder, but as something else entirely. A survivor of the same game he was forced to play. "If you hate this so much," he mutters one night, standing in the dim glow of his study, "why didn't you leave?" She exhales, slow and measured, before looking at him with something too raw to be disguised. "Because I wasn't just fighting for me," she says softly, and that's when he realizes. This wasn't just about a contract, a name, or even power. This was about survival. Her and his. The lives tangled in the wake of a deal neither of them made. He watches her now, not with suspicion, but with something deeper, something dangerous. He was never meant to remember, never meant to question, never meant to feel anything but resentment. But here she is, still standing, still fighting, and for the first time he wonders, maybe they don't have to fight alone. Before we reach the end, ask yourself, what would you do? Would you walk away from a life you never chose? Or would you dare to stay and rewrite your fate? He was never meant to remember. She was never meant to matter. But here they are, standing on the edge of something neither of them expected. He could leave, take back control, sign the papers, erase the scandal, reclaim the life that was his before she ever stepped into it. But that life no longer exists, because now he knows the truth. And the truth changes everything. "You still have a choice," she tells him, standing in the soft glow of the city lights beyond the palace walls. "You can let them decide for you, or we can decide for ourselves." For the first time, the answer isn't obvious. The man who built his empire on power and certainty now stands in the one place he never expected to be. Uncertain. She was supposed to be the problem, the lie, the mistake. But now she might be the only truth that matters. So he does the one thing no one, especially not himself, ever expected. He takes her hand. Fate is a cruel, beautiful thing. It twists, it bends, it forces impossible choices. Some spend their whole lives fighting against it. Others embrace it, letting it shape them into something new. He once believed he controlled everything, his life, his destiny, his heart. But tonight, as he stands beside the woman he once called a stranger, he realizes maybe the greatest power of all is surrendering to the unknown. Their story doesn't end here. A marriage built on secrets doesn't mean the truth won't come with its own price. Enemies still lurk in the shadows. Loyalties will be tested, and the world will be watching, waiting for them to fail. But if they're going to burn, they'll do it together. What happens next? That's up to them. And if you want to know how far they'll go to fight for what's theirs, subscribe now, because this story is just getting started.